The University of Chicago Common App essays. Let's talk about them. So for UChicago, we have 2 prompts to address: a typical Y School prompt and a creative prompt chosen from a selection of various options, something that UChicago has offered for generations. In fact, during my undergrad application cycle, I vividly remember answering the question, "Where is Waldo?" And every single year, Chicago refreshes their options. The first thing you'll notice is that UChicago does not list word counts for these prompts, truly embodying the academic freedom that the university espouses. Still, I'd recommend that you aim for around 500 to 600 words, which is about 2 pages double-spaced. This should give you enough space to fully flesh out your ideas, though if you need to go a bit longer in order to add a little bit of content that you haven't yet included, that'll be okay as well. So let's jump in. This first prompt is a classic Y School essay. Remember, you can cite any courses, clubs, and professors that you find from the school website, which can always form the foundation of a Y School essay. But UChicago also has a lot of unique aspects to the university, which may be worth mentioning depending on your prospective major. For instance, UChicago boasts over 100 Nobel laureates, despite having a much shorter history than that of other top universities. This commitment to research is something that you can mention if it relates to your academic objectives. Moreover, the university possesses international centers across Europe and Asia, in places such as Delhi, Paris, and Beijing, which you may find interesting if you seek international experience during your time at college. UChicago also possesses a unique elective for 4th-year students called Big Problems. This capstone allows students to gain experience diving into a critical issue currently facing society. Say you're interested in an issue like climate change or the ramifications of artificial intelligence. You could take this unique course to further flesh out your understanding of such issues. So as the question asks not only about learning and community, but also about your future, make sure you think about how UChicago's resources will prepare you to thrive in your future career, whatever direction you may choose. So be sure to connect any UChicago specific content to that aspect. In addition to talking about these opportunities, you can also talk about the campus itself, which you could see more of in our school tour video. This will give you the chance to frame your essay as you having visited either virtually or in person. You can talk about how you envision studying under the bright sunlight at our beautiful Mansueto library, or how you'd like to spend time in the quad conversing with classmates amid all the regal Gothic architecture. Whatever you want to include, you have a lot of space to be creative with this prompt. Now we get into the fun prompts. Here we have 6 options to look through, each inspired by students at the university. Let's take a brief look at each. Alright, so who doesn't love colors? As humans are visual creatures, so much of our language encompasses themes surrounding color. As a result, I think this is a great prompt for anybody interested in art or visual media. You can start by first looking at a list of different sayings that include the use of colors. From there, I encourage you to experiment with substitutes. That is, instead of saying once in a blue moon, think about saying once in a green moon. How does the meaning change? In this case, you've gone from describing something that's very rare to in fact illustrating something that perhaps doesn't even happen. Play the substitution game and see what works for you. Now we move on to a topic that affects all of us: age. You can tackle this prompt from a number of angles, including the philosophical. But as a neuroscience major myself, I like going in a direction that's more biological. For instance, it's known that most of the cells in your body will die and give rise to replacements, and this happens constantly. When you think about it, this means that some of your bodily tissue will be younger in a chronological sense, even as time continues to pass. It's almost like the ship of Theseus, which you could explore further if you like the philosophical direction better. As you can see, this prompt has a lot of room for creativity, so be sure to have fun with it. Next, we have a prompt on the theme of being the odd one out. This is a pretty broad topic that you could tackle from multiple directions, including from an extracurricular activity like music. Every band requires the harmony of multiple individuals, but sometimes there's going to be one member who's seen as the odd one out. That could be because of their personality, or maybe even because of the instrument they play. You can meditate on the importance of that individual in the group, and perhaps even flip this idea of being the odd one out on its head, arguing that that individual may in fact be the most important. Of course, this doesn't have to be limited to a band. You can think about any well-known group that interests you and run with it. Fourth, what a swell prompt. You can have a lot of fun with this one, especially if you're interested in literature, language, or linguistics. Remember, this prompt is open across languages, so you don't have to go back to The Great Gatsby when looking at something to bring back, especially if you have extensive knowledge of another language. Here, you can introduce the etymology of your chosen slang and talk about the history of its usage, as well as why you like it and how you can use it in language. For instance, when I learned Chinese, I learned the phrase 步到长城废好汉. You will not be a hero until conquering the Great Wall, or spoken more broadly, you must conquer your obstacles in order to become a great person. Sure, I'd sound like a boomer if I went around using this regularly, but I think it's such a cool phrase given the literal and metaphorical meaning behind it. Think about what such phrases interest you. Now the fifth prompt. It almost sounds like market sizing for those of you familiar with consulting. Of course, the fun of such questions is not the answer itself, but how you go about getting there. This may be a great prompt to choose if you're interested in a subject like math, or have experience solving such problems in an extracurricular activity like an Olympiad. The thing is, you can also showcase your personality in what you choose to estimate. For instance, say you're a foodie. Maybe you find the idea of estimating how many slices of pizza are served in New York each day an interesting one. Go about how you would estimate that, citing your personal experience. And finally, there's a choose your own prompt option. You can find plenty of fun previous examples online. So what should you choose? If there's not a prompt jumping out at you, then maybe spend a few minutes brainstorming some bullet points under a few different ideas to see if any gain traction. I'd also say to look back at some examples of previous prompts to see if any of those inspire you. You may even get an idea for your own question, which could work really well, as you have a chance to showcase your personality not only in what question you ask, but also in how you answer it. Whatever you end up choosing, don't be afraid to be quirky and unique. Letting your personality shine is the best way to make the essay memorable and by extension, increase your odds of admittance. You got this.